Our next speaker, Kris Pierce, will take the stage. She is a rare disease advocate and health professional with a background in health sciences and nursing. After a 14-year odyssey to a diagnosis for her son, Kris co-founded the Genetic Epilepsy Team Australia and founded SWAN2019 Australia to bring the first clinical trials for this community. Kris is passionate about empowering people and have recently been appointed to the Rare Global Advocacy Leadership Council at Global Gene. So please welcome Kris.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone. I'm sort of going off my cuff, and half of my speech is in my intro. So Heather asked me to come and talk about what happened post-diagnosis. Obviously, as Linda said, it was 14 years until we got our diagnosis. So I just wanted to give you some background because I was in your shoes for a good part of my son's life. So this is him back. We spent most of the first year of his life at the Children's, not this one, the old one, with very catastrophic epilepsy. He is a twin. There's a picture on that cot a little bit further down with his twin on it. So she was with him while he was in there. So yeah, we had a whole range of things happening when Will was in hospital. He had every test under the sun, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. He was sent home at 12 months with a neurodegenerative condition and was sent home for palliative care. So we took him home to die. Clearly, that's not the case because he's 17 now. But he was put in the too hard box for a long time. We spent a lot of time trying to find answers for him, had really no idea about the genetic background, but we just kept asking questions and trying to get answers to help him. He has seizures, he's got intellectual disability, he's non-verbal, he had trouble with gait, a whole range of things. So somewhere along the way, our neurologist said, "You are too hard for me. I want you to go and see Ingrid Sheffer," which I'm sure a lot of you know. And we got put into her research project, and we were told to come back about 12 months later if we hadn't heard anything. So we went back, and they told us that, because it was shipped off to America back then, I don't know if that's still the case, and they basically came back saying the batch that they did with his genetic testing in it didn't work, bad luck, it hasn't happened. So our neurologist decided he would send it off through the private system, and we still hadn't heard anything. Got a bit fed up with the neurologist putting our son in the too hard box because he was going through a whole lot of challenges and we needed some answers, so we changed neurologists. Within a week we had a diagnosis. And we also found out that in two different parts at the hospital, both already had the results of his genetic testing. One had had it for at least 18 months because he was written up in a paper. And the other one had it for 6 months, but it came in a format that they couldn't open, so they just left it there. So two parts in the hospital was sitting on our diagnosis for a lot longer, a long time before that answer actually got to us. But it certainly wasn't an easy road to get a diagnosis. But once we got a diagnosis, which is kind of what I want to talk about, is where did we go from there? Did it make a difference to Will? Not really, because luckily for those people who didn't tell us the answers, there was nothing that could have happened in that time for him. There's no treatments, there's no medications that would have made any difference to him. But what did it mean to us as parents is having our group and our people. So yeah, he was diagnosed with SCN2A, which is a very rare genetic condition. And we found families around the world. There's a US group that has a Facebook group that we linked in with. I originally linked in with them thinking that they were the place for us to sort of work with, but found they had very different values and ideas, and found that there was a lot of work actually happening in SCN2A here. So there's lots of research going on here. So we pulled back and have basically set up SCN2A Australia to do work locally. So we work locally, but connect globally with researchers, patients, and clinicians. In Australia, what we've done, and this is highly important in the phase that we're going into with SCN2A, is connecting with clinicians and the lab researchers that are working on treatments for our children. And the work that's being done in SCN2A is exponentially moving along. So we are looking at going to clinical trials, hopefully at the end of next year. Part of doing that is being involved in a natural history study. I don't know if you're aware of what that is, but it's basically looking at the disease in depth and really looking at how the disease has progressed in each individual. And as you would all know, our variants are also different. Even though we've got SCN2A, you can present in completely different ways. So this natural history study is currently being done. It's been run out of the MCRI, which is an international project. So that's super exciting for us, and it's good for us to be able to be doing that here. Obviously led by Catherine Howe. And it's really important that we have this information when we go to clinical trials so that we can lobby government and all the right people so that we can bring those treatments to our kids. As I said, first clinical trials will be coming in 2020 for kids like Will. Will probably won't meet the eligibility criteria because he's got through the catastrophic phase. It may be a treatment that he might have later, but at this stage it won't be for him. So the other thing we've done locally is set up GETA. And why did we set up GETA? It's because SCN2A is an ultra rare genetic condition. There's probably only 30 to 40 in Australia, which I know is probably more than some of the families that you know. And basically we realised that together we can be much stronger. We started this with 2 other families with different genetic conditions, so that we've all come together to lobby government for better access to NDIS, better access to services in the hospital, things along those lines. So the impetus was to work together and we can achieve more. One of our families went and lobbied the government and got $2 million for epilepsy research, and that's now sitting underneath the Epilepsy Research Foundation, and they now have a grant round, and all researchers that are working in genetic epilepsy can apply for funding through that grant. So yeah, GETA has partnered with the Epilepsy Foundation, doctors and researchers with the main aim of getting a team, getting a target and getting a cure. And we're lucky that we've got really, genetic epilepsy is basically, Melbourne is like one of the pinnacles of research in genetic epilepsy. So we're very lucky that we've got super smart people who want to help our kids. But the other message I wanted to get across to you, in my experience since we've had a diagnosis and trying to drive the work in any of these areas, whether it's in SCN2A or GETA, is working together. And the only way to do that is to collaborate. And when in the rare disease space, the only way to do that is not only locally in your own space, but then working out who else has got similar interests, similar needs. Find those people, work together, and you'll get further faster. So collaboration is my big passion. So as I said, find the people that you can work with, can help support you in your cause. And we all stand on the shoulders of those that have come before us, in terms of there'll be another group that's done something that you need to do as the next step in your group. Find them, find out how they did it. Everyone's willing to share in this space. You'll find that people will hand over. You need a document, you find someone who's done it, they'll give it to you. So reach out to those people and they'll help you progress things. As Linda said, I went to Global Genes recently. It was the best conference I've ever been to. It was amazing, and it's basically rare disease advocates, and it's all about how to progress work in your own space and how to work with other people. And I was appointed to the Rare Global Advocacy Leadership Council, and that is basically helping and mentoring people to set up their own groups around the world so people in the rare disease space have a voice and that they can find ways in which that they can advocate for either their child or their group. Yeah, so that's the initiative, is patient support advocacy training, advice on setting up patient supports. And so we had our first meeting when I was in San Diego about a month ago, and we're just working up what we're going to do through that program and where we're going to go next. I'm actually finished. I've got the orange thing. But the other point I wanted to make, and it's a really important one, is always remember your why when you're working in this space. Remember who you're doing the work for. These are, and now I might cry, but I won't. These are all kids with SCN2A, and there's probably about 400 or 500 around the world with SCN2A, but little Eunice in the corner there is currently fighting for his life in the UK, and Eva up the top there is having seizures and a whole range of things. Elijah in the middle has passed away. We have quite a high mortality rate with SCN2A, and there's my little superstar who's 17 and actually doing pretty well compared to a lot of other kids in the SCN2A space. So we're pretty lucky. He's still got lots of challenges, but he loves Highland cows, so that keeps him pretty happy. So that's it from me. I'm happy to take questions, or if any of you get to the point where you do get a diagnosis or you're there and you want some support in where to or how to move forward, please reach out. Or if you have, genetic epilepsy, join GETA. It's a really positive, we run a conference every year. It's a really positive weekend where we get together, and it's because we're so rare. I mean, I hardly see an SCN2A mum, but when we have our GETA conference, we're all in there, we're all in the same position with the same same challenges with uncontrolled seizures, and it's just a really good feeling to be there with people who understand what you're going through. Yeah, we were pretty. It was tough for a long time, and I actually had just started working on some committees here. I had to go back to them. I think I got over it much quicker than the actual research. So a lot of changes were made, yeah. A lot of changes were made. Well, I hope not. They did a lot of work. The hospital managed it very well, and the lab testing where it was sitting. To open it, obviously. The loophole was someone just thought someone else. The day we found out, we probably got over that. Well, I think what they looked at as part of the process was the
Thanks, Kris.